and say it's fantastic what you guys are doing. So congratulations again. So a couple of things I want to echo that Ty said. Also, don't go out and say David Gilmour said you should do this too. That's probably not a good thing either. That's probably not good for my career. But this is, again, this is a tool in your quiver. When the circumstances present itself, it's something that you will want to know about so that you might be able to talk to someone if they're in that position to be able to utilize one of these programs. This isn't a way to go out and just start approaching people. What you do and what you have done and what has made you successful, you continue to do. You continue to meet people, you continue to, work on, your referral sources, and you continue to meet as many people as you can, and you talk to them about the basics of IUL and how great it is and how it works and the living benefits and all that kind of stuff. And then as you start to discover more about the person, you might find that they are a candidate for something like this. But that's not what you start talking about, okay? I just want to make sure that I'm very clear about this, because this is a solution. You still have to uncover what their problems are and what their needs are from a life insurance and from a planning perspective. Once you have unearthed that, and once you completely understand the person's situation and what they're trying to accomplish, this might be a solution for them. The worst thing that you can start doing is starting to put everybody into this box. That's not what I want you to do. This is for probably less than 1% of the people that you meet with. It really is a rare person that will qualify for this. But when you meet that person, this stuff that I'm going to talk about tonight should kind of set off a light bulb, and then after you meet with them, you can come back and you can look at their situation and say, maybe I should talk to them about this other possibility, okay? But I will tell you, it will, for the people that this applies to, they are wealthy, they're making a lot of money, they have a lot of assets, and so if you just switch mid-course and say, oh, you know what you should do? You should do this. They're going to wonder why all of a sudden you're switching what you're talking about. So this is kind of an opportunity to go back to them and talk to them about this once you've had a chance to truly assess where they are and what they're trying to do. Does that make sense? It will make more sense as I go through what we're going to talk about today. Before I actually talk about the plan and what it is, I'm going to go, and I know that there's a lot of people in this room that have been doing this a long time, because we've been in meetings like this for a long time together. But I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning, and I'm going to talk about why Index Universal Life works so well. Because there is a very significant tie between why this program works and why it works with Index Universal Life. Okay? So, here we go. Any questions before we start? Okay. So, this is, hopefully everybody will be able to see this. So this is cost, and this is time on a graph. Okay? And so you know that if someone buys a term policy from you, okay? Everybody knows what term is, right? It's a placeholder for permanent insurance, but sometimes people want to buy term insurance. And if you are, let's say, 40 years old, then it's going to cost you this until the price goes up, right? And the reason that it is because the cost when you start is really here. The cost when you end is really here, so you pay somewhere in the middle, right? So if you're buying term for, rather use red?
That's better.
Okay. So when you're buying term, if you're buying a 20-year term policy, you pay a little bit more when you start and a little bit less in the end. But over the time that you're buying the term policy for 20 years, 10 years, 15, 30, whatever it is, you have a level period, right? And then at the end, you're basically paying whatever it costs for your insurance. And that's why whenever you look at a term illustration, it's flat and then it goes like this, right? It becomes cost prohibitive. Well, the same type of the same type of methodology is what's being employed when we buy a universal life contract. Because if you look at the true cost of insurance for a person that starts at 40, it starts out like here, and then it goes up every year. Okay, sorry, my drawing is horrible, but hopefully you'll get the idea. Right, so this is the cost inside of a universal life contract or an index universal life, right? And if you've ever looked at the expense pages, you know, the cost of insurance charges, they go up a little bit every year, right? And that's what they're supposed to do, because we're actually charging you what it costs to insure your life at that point in time every year. Now, the beauty of universal life is that we don't ask you to, you know, we don't start here and then every year increase your premiums. What we do is we say, okay, if you're 40, we're going to let you start right here. And we're going to let you pay this amount of premium. Because that's the most amount of premium that you can put in. Doesn't matter what the face amount is. We're not talking about that. We're talking about dollars into cost. And so what happens, because this is what my cost is here, right? So what happens with all of this? What happens with all of this money right here? So if my premium is this, wow, look at that.
There you go.
Perfect.
We're seeing you going like this.
Okay. Yeah. So if this is how much the policy really costs, and I'm putting in this much money in total, what's this green amount of money doing? It's growing. It's what's adding to the cash value. It's what's getting the index credits every year. It's what's building the long-term cash value. And so the next year I pay this in costs. But then I've got this that's growing, right? So in the second year, I've got this plus this that's growing. And then in the third year, I've got this and this and this all the way up here. So when I'm younger, when my costs are low, I'm using the time value of money to build this cash value that's growing and growing early. And so the sooner that I can have more excess money in the contract, the greater it's going to grow. So to the extent that I can make this as big as possible, it's going to make the values down the road as big as possible. Which is why most of you, when you're selling supplemental retirement, IULs, you're doing minimum death benefit max cash value, right? That's all this is a minimum death benefit maximum cash value. But the important thing to remember is it's the fact that we put this money in early, this extra money in early, and it gets to grow on a compounded basis that gets us to those cash values down the road that allow us to utilize them in the form of supplemental retirement income or loans, withdrawals, whatever you're going to use it for. The other thing that we have going for us is that at some point in the future when the cash value grows, because most of these cases that we're going to talk about are initially set up at option B. They're set up at option B so that we can reduce this cost as much as possible. And then at some point in the future, we're going to flip it. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to take advantage to the greatest extent of the cash accumulation that's going on internally inside of the contract. So we're trying to get as much money as we can in to get the most value down the road. And we do that for two reasons. Number one, because we want to take advantage of this, but also down the road there are costs that create, if you get older and older and older, obviously it's more expensive to buy that insurance. So we're also trying to pre-fund that as well. So this compounding and this buildup of initial cash value, along with the shrinking of the death benefit ultimately, is what gives us the leverage to create the maximum amount of cash value possible. Now, the reason I did this is, let's say that if this is my premium level, I can do this much. But let's say I can put make my premium level here, and I've got, don't need that. So now I've got only twice as much expense, but now look at what the excess is. So to the extent that we can continue to push the premium levels up and the amount of excess dollars that we're putting in it, will create even more cash value down the road. So it's more than twice as effective to put $2 in than putting $1 in, because the excess is so much greater than what the costs are. That compounding and interest credits and all that stuff growing down the road makes it a much stronger contract. I'm sure that you've seen this if you've run any number of illustrations. If you show someone a $100 a month illustration, then you show them a $200 a month illustration, and you show them what the income are on both of those, the second one is more than twice the first. And it's because you're putting in that much more money. It's the ability to put that much more money in to this contract that makes it work that much better. So when I go through the examples that I'm going to show you when we do the actual presentation, you're going to see, and sometimes it doesn't make a lot of sense, that by just adding more money, you get more than the multiplying effect. So if you put in 2 times as much money, you get more than 2 times the benefit out of it. If you put 3 times as much money in, you get more than 3 times the benefit out of it. If you get 4 times the money in, you get more than 4 times the amount of benefit out of it. Does that make sense? Are you sure?
Yeah.
Because I will tell you, when we talk about this plan, this is critical to the people that you're going to be talking to, because they're going to want to know why. Why is it better for me to borrow some extra money to put into this program? It almost seems too good to be true. Okay? So this, even though this is basic IUL benefits, compounding interest, all that kind of stuff, it is crucial and the only reason why this type of a program will work, because it is life insurance. Okay? We good? Okay. Don't let me off the hook. I got all night. Okay. That's good. It's important. Oh my God. Ugh. Getting old. So, you'll see why in a little bit when I go through some of the examples, why this is so important. Okay? So keep this in the back of your mind. Okay. Now on to the show.